a region of over 600 new bridges between our lands.
Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm your host, Kaloy Tabunda from the New Era University, ASEAN Studies Center and the Center for International Linkages. This afternoon we will talk about a very important topic. Actually, it's actually a controversial topic right now. It is about the pending Train 2 bill in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. And to serve as a resource person this afternoon is the Senior Vice President of Marketing and External Affairs of SPI Technologies Incorporated, Ms. Celeste Ilagan. Good afternoon, Celeste.
Good afternoon, Kaloy.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I understand you have also been with the Board of Investments for 20 years.
Yes.
What did you do there? So you're very much...
You are successful in dating me, Kaloy. Yes, I was with the Board of Investments. I left that agency, which I loved 10 years ago. I was Executive Director for Investment Promotion, and that's the reason why I am somewhat familiar with incentives that the Board of Investments and PEZA and other investment promotion agencies provide to investors.
That's why you're very passionate about this Train 2
I am,
bill now.
yes,
Okay.
I am.
So you are now the Senior Vice President of Marketing and External Affairs of SPI Technologies. Can you tell us something about SPI Technologies?
Actually, our company brand name is SPI Global. We are a homegrown pioneer in the BPO industry. We've been in the country for 38 years already. We are headquartered in Manila.
So this is homegrown Filipino?
This is homegrown. For a time, we were 100% owned by PLDT, but now already owned by a private equity company based in Switzerland. But still, home office is in the Philippines. We have around 6,500 people in the country, and globally, we are around 14,000. We have facilities in India, we have in Vietnam, Nicaragua, China, and the US.
So this is a business process outsourcing company?
More than business process outsourcing, we can be called a KPO, knowledge process outsourcing company, and we have transitioned ourselves to be a technology solutions and technology services company, serving clients in the scientific, technical, and medical publishing fields, also in education and digital publishing, and of course, content aggregators. Our clients are the biggest publishers in the world. We don't do local business, we're all export-oriented.
Okay, so we go to the main topic, Train 2.
Okay.
What is Train 2? Can you briefly explain what it's all about, and what are the key points that we must remember about this current discussion?
Okay, Train 2. Train is short for tax reform for acceleration and inclusion.
Okay, it's part of the comprehensive tax reform program
Right.
of the government.
So it's Train 2, so there was Train 1. No? Train 1 was about restructuring personal income taxes, and that has been passed in December, and it's now being implemented. So Train 2 is here for the adjustment of corporate income tax and also the rationalization of incentives. The key points probably that have to be remembered about Train 2 is that it proposes the lowering of corporate income tax from 30% to 25% based on the bill that's
being deliberated
on coming from the DOF. There's another version that proposes a lower range to 20%. And the other key point is the rationalization of incentives, of course, will be about making sure that the incentives that are granted to investors are not what the DOF calls redundant or unnecessary. That's the reason for the review.
Okay, so we have to make a clarification for our viewers. Train 1 was intended for income earners, personal income tax, precisely, and the lowering of income tax returns, withholding tax to fixed income earners, and then train 2 is about lowering the corporate taxes of corporations, of businesses. But why is there some sort of a resistance from the business sector? Actually, you come from the business sector.
Okay.
What's the resistance all about?
Yes, there's actually a general recognition and acceptance and support to train 2 insofar as the effort of lowering the corporate income tax.
Yes.
Because 30% is one of the highest in the region. The region has a range of maybe from 15% up to 20%, and therefore...
We are 30.
And we are at 30.
Singapore is how much?
17%. With the infrastructure in Singapore, their corporate income tax is 17%. So therefore, it's not so much the lowering of the corporate income tax that is being sort of debated upon. It is the rate by which we are lowering the corporate income tax. 25% that will go down within 5 years is some business sectors say it's a little too slow and too little.
So the 5% will cover 5 years.
Yes.
So it's not an instant
No, it's not an instant
decrease in the
5% decrease when train 2 is passed. The lowering of the tax by 1% is contingent on government's ability to sort of raise a certain amount to ensure that it can give a 1% reduction. So
come again. the reduction is contingent on the ability of government to
raise money.
Okay.
So if I remember the number correctly, they should be able to raise around 26 billion pesos, so that they can every year. So that they can reduce the corporate income tax by 1%. So if they are successful in 2019, it will be 29%, and then 28% the year after, and so on down the line.
5 years over 5 years.
Right.
But you're still low. The government is still lowering the rate. What's the resistance? Where's the resistance coming from?
Well, it's as I said, it's not the corporate income tax lowering. It is the other side of train 2, which is sort of amending the incentives regime that has been sort of committed to investors that are already in the country, and the uncertainty that the change is causing maybe companies that are looking at the Philippines as a prospective location. So
they're holding off because of the
what we hear is that in TESA, for example, their investment approvals and registrations have decreased in 2017 by I think around 49% for IT and BPO projects, and around 46% for manufacturing projects. And they say that it's because many of the investors that they have spoken to have taken a wait-and-see attitude, waiting for what will come out of train 2 before they make a decision to come in or change path in terms of location. And of course, existing companies that are already here may also be in the mode of expansion, but because also of what is happening, yes, they are holding off on their plans.
So it's the uncertainty at this time of our business.
That's what we hear.
History.
That's what we hear.
We will talk more about Train 2 when ASEAN in Focus returns.
Welcome to the garden. A world that recaptures the value of life, creating your moments, rekindling your passion, worth reliving over and over. This is your world, your life, your garden.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
I'm the greatest hitter in the world! Strike one. I'm the greatest hitter in the world! Strike two. I'm the greatest hitter in the world! Strike three. Wow! I'm the greatest pitcher in the world! Yes! Optimism. Pass it on.
Landmarks, Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus, and we continue our interview with Ms. Celeste Ilagan, the Senior Vice President of Marketing and External Affairs of SPI Global Holdings. Okay, so we're talking about Train 2. So what's the status of the bill now? Is there a strong push for the bill to be passed into law?
Yes, the bill is undergoing hearings at the lower house. In fact, just this morning there was a hearing. I think it's the 4th hearing there. So I think there will be marathon hearings because there is really a strong push to pass this into law by the end of this year so that it can be implemented in 2019. So the hearings are ongoing. The ones that have been invited to these hearings are, of course, business organizations, investment promotion agencies who administer incentives, and of course the DOF is always there to also present their position on why they are pushing this version of Train 2.
You said earlier that much of the opposition is coming from the uncertainty.
That's what we hear, yes.
So what do you propose, the business sector, what do you propose?
Well, we have been talking to other business organizations, and I know that different foreign chambers have submitted their own position papers, having looked at what the bill proposes. They have their specific position papers that will benefit the nationals of these countries who are doing business in the country. So there's a Korean chamber that submitted its position paper, the Japanese, American. So there are different versions of, reactions and suggestions on what will be good for these groups of investors. And so we are waiting for what the final version probably will be coming out of the lower house, and of course the Senate will file its own version. There is no sponsor yet in the Senate. We hear that there has been some sort of a difficulty getting a sponsor for the bill, but a couple of days ago we heard that the Senate President is willing to sponsor the bill. So we don't know yet, but the Senate and the lower house version should come together for a bicameral version, and then it will then be passed into law if there's an agreement between Senate and the lower house.
How about your sector? What are you proposing?
Our company is a member of PAMURI, and therefore
PAMURI.
It is the Philippine Association of Multinationals and Regional Headquarters incorporated in the Philippines. So this group of companies have located in the Philippines to serve as back office support to their global operations, and therefore before locating here, they have looked at the different incentives regime and have chosen the Philippines because of what it promises to provide. So for ROHQs, the main incentives that we were getting was the 15% personal income tax and also 10% corporate tax. In Train 1, the 15% personal income tax benefit has sort of been removed, so we don't enjoy that anymore. In Train 2, the 10% corporate income tax of ROHQs will be
excuse again, sorry.
Regional Operating Headquarters. And with the removal, proposed removal, then our tax rate will be like the regular corporate income tax. So therefore, it's a huge increase for Regional Operating Headquarters. And our prayer, the lawyers call it our prayer, is for the train to give ROHQs a transition period like what it is giving to PEZA registered enterprises. So from 10% to 30%, but maybe in 5 years, in 10 years. So, a transition period that companies will be able to make adjustments in their financial projections and expenses, so that they are not burdened by the change.
What's your concrete proposal on the income tax rate, for corporate income tax rate?
Well, I'll go with the version of Congressman Dax Kua. He proposes a 20% corporate income tax. But personally, I would propose a quicker adjustment. It's not 20% in 10 years. It should be faster than that. 1% every year, maybe nothing.
And it's contingent on the capability of government.
Correct.
To
and also, if prices of raw materials, for example, are increasing, the 1% decrease will not have a positive impact. And that's my personal view.
So, generally, what can you say about Train 2? It created so much uncertainty. Imagine the investments, are these investment potentials or
approvals and registrations
decreased by 49% in 2017.
That's for IPBPO
for manufacturing is 46. And for this 2018, I'm sure some figures have also gone up.
Yes, I've heard initial numbers from PEZA in the last hearing in Congress, and if I recall correctly, it's more than 50% based on last year's January to June figures. So
do you think we're erasing the gains for investments because of this uncertainty brought about? But I mean, can you contribute this to the uncertainty caused by Train 2?
I think it is fair to say that, Kaloy, that the uncertainty is causing investors to look at other places or maybe just have that wait and see attitude. It's not easy to promote investments, and therefore, if you have a group of companies that are looking at the Philippines because it has sort of stack you up with other countries in the region because of incentives, and that is the advantage that they are looking at in the Philippines, and you sort of take it away, then they will think twice, and therefore I think this uncertainty is really what is causing the decrease in investment approvals. But to be fair, there are also data from BOI, for example, that shows an increase in their investment approvals. You know that BOI is more oriented towards domestic industries, while PEZA's registrations are more for export oriented. And you know, BOI's projects are big ticket. It can be energy related, it can be telecommunications, it can be housing, and therefore the project costs are a lot higher. So in that area, I understand that investments have increased. And PEZA also, in 2017, they said that total or the aggregate approvals have increased. But in these two areas that I mentioned, for our industry and manufacturing, those were significant increases.
And we need manufacturing to really prop up our economy.
Exactly. Even the DOF is saying that manufacturing should be promoted more intensively because the usage, for example, of technology, of raw materials, local value added, this is important for the country, and manufacturing will be able to provide that.
Okay, so if you were the policymaker, instead of train to, what would you recommend? Well,
I agree that there should be a review of the tax code, and therefore I also support the lowering of the corporate income tax, and therefore that should go. If I have my way on train 2, it's probably to divide the two major items, so as not to hamper or to constrain the lowering of corporate income taxes because of the debate on the incentive side. Then there may be a separate bill that's for the lowering of the corporate income tax, and a separate bill that will take care of rationalizing incentives. And I think that is, you know, a fair approach, and I know that there are agencies of government who also support it, even a business organization. So we don't know if it can still be approached that way. If there's a sponsor on a twin bill approach, then certainly it is welcome.
I mean, have you have you raised that to the policymakers, to the lawmakers, the twin bill approach?
I'm not sure if the twin bill approach word has been used, but there have been you know, comments and suggestions during hearings that this should not be together. In fact, PEZA has espoused that in the recent hearing, and the BOI as well. So I think the benefit of a lower income tax can be more quickly enjoyed by Philippine companies if it is separately filed and discussed. There's not going to be a lot of objections, and I think the only important thing there is how much the lowered corporate income tax is going to be. And then for incentives, it can be like before the fiscal incentives rationalization effort that has been happening for many years now. It has not found its conclusion because of, you know, disagreements also and discussions with different investment promotion agencies and investors. And it just goes to show that there is, you know, strong concern about a possible change in incentives regime.
And do you think that will be possible? The change in incentive regime with the way things are going now?
Well, if we go by train 1 and how the hearings went, and that time frame that they said it was going to be approved and passed into law, and that's the same pronouncements on train 2, then it probably can happen. But if the Senate, for example, will scrutinize it longer, then maybe it will take a longer deliberation.
Okay, thank you very much, Celeste. Thank you very much. And we hope to hear more of you and from your business sector in our show here at ASEAN in Focus.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That's all, folks. This is ASEAN in Focus. I'm Kaloy Tabunda, and I'm 1 with 25.